So I'm sure you've all seen this image hundreds, if not thousands of times. And personally, I've always hated this image. But recently, I learned of a new concept called desire lines, which totally changed the way that I view this image and the impact that it has had on me. So what the hell is a desire line? Well, a desire line is a concept that park planners or transportation planners use to identify paths where people want to go, where people want to walk. And this is a pretty good example of basically a shortcut that patrons want to take across the grass. And it's created this muddy path, right? So that person clearly wants to go from the bottom up to the top, and they're going to just walk along the grass because it's a quicker route. So that muddy path is a desire line. It's where people desire to go. Now, the park planners or the transportation planners can decide what they want to do with that information. They have the information, right? They know that that is an area of their park where people cut across the grass. It's where they want to go. It's the shortcut that they want to take. But what do they do with that information? Well, they've got a few options, right? The first option is they could just leave it as a muddy path. It's not really hurting anyone, except for a few people might get some muddy shoes, maybe slip over in the mud, and the grass gets a little bit kind of destroyed in the process, and it may not look so nice. The second option they could do is literally prevent people from walking across that. They could put up barriers, right? They could stop people from taking the shortcut. And sure, people are going to take a little bit longer to get from A to B, a couple seconds here and there. Maybe that's not such a bad idea. The third option they could do is they could literally just pave a concrete path where they know that people want to walk. And this seems like a potentially good option, right? And it kind of looks all right in this context. But imagine now you have multiple desire lines cutting every which way across a grass field. You probably aren't going to just flat out pave with pavement every single desire line that appears. You would end up with a pretty higgledy-piggledy, messy kind of park, and that's not really ideal. The fourth and final option that we're going to explore today is they could design a path that fits into the environment around it. So they could use pebbles or stepping stones and build kind of nice features around that path that would kind of have an affordance of, hey, if you want to walk across here, then there's an alternate route that you can take, and we've designed that for you. So you're not going to get muddy feet. Cool, that's great, but what the hell does this have to do with software and building great products? Well, desire lines may not be as tangible and visible in software, but they sure as hell exist. Let's take an example of Facebook. Here is a post from Malala talking about the refugee crisis continuing. This is a sad and heavy topic. But typically, and in the past, Facebook only had two ways, or three if you include sharing, but two ways to kind of interact with this type of content. You could like it, which would promote the content and increase its kind of visibility on the platform, and you could comment. And what we found, or what people found, was that liking content that was inherently negative or inherently sad felt weird. People let Facebook know this. I mean, you saw that certain types of content would get a ton of comments and not many likes because it just felt awkward and weird. I mean, people would literally write saying, where the hell is the dislike button? I want to dislike this thing because it's bad, it's sad. So what did Facebook do? Going back to our analogy, they could have just left it. Sure, it's a muddy path. Sure, some things are not going to fit and gel into the environment of Facebook. People are going to share sad content and it's going to be a little bit awkward because you can only like it. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. Is it slightly awkward? You're going to get muddy feet? Yeah, sure. It's a little bit uncomfortable. What they also could have done is just built a dislike button, which is what everyone was asking for, and it would play into the like and dislike kind of dynamic. You like something, you dislike something. It makes sense. What Facebook actually did was probably more in line with creating a pebble pathway. They took in all of that feedback and all that desire to dislike something, but they designed it in a Facebook way and they created reactions. So you weren't disliking something, but you could feel sad or angry or surprised about something. It was built into the platform and the environment of Facebook. So they saw the desire line, they designed it to fit into their platform. Let's take another example, Twitter. People wanted to say more than what they could with 160 characters. And there were a few ways around this. They would post screenshots of notes, for example, or they would link to external websites, blogs, etc. Or one kind of hacky way that users used to write more than 160 characters was to just reply to themselves over and over. So that when you opened the tweet, you saw a whole bunch of replies from the creator of the tweet that would elaborate on their thinking. This was messy and awkward because it was backwards. The most recent tweet would appear at the top, which was actually the last tweet in the series. It was kind of weird. Again, it was like users were walking through that muddy path. And what Twitter actually did here was probably more like just paving a new pathway. They just let users create threads. So you can now add more than one tweet to a series of tweets, and they link together in chronological order and they kind of make sense. Now, what's really interesting is what the hell Twitter are going to do with the edit button. I mean, we know that they're considering it. They could just build an edit button, which would be paving the path. But how does editing fit into the environment and the platform of Twitter? So, desire lines exist. Desire lines are where users desire to go. Now, there are many ways that you can identify desire lines in your own products. You can go and talk to users. You can read forums or feedback forms or, go on social media. There are a magnitude of ways that you can collect feedback and look for these desire lines. But what do you do when you get that information? When you see that users want to do something in your product, but it doesn't quite exist and they're doing it in a weird and muddled way? Well, let's consider these 4 options again. You can just leave it. Is it the worst thing in the world if they continue to kind of do this weird, hacky thing in your product? Is it? Should you stop them doing it? Are they doing something that is so weird and hacky and bad for them and bad for the system that you should just actively stop them doing it? Should you just pave the way, pave a new path for them, give them the solution that they want? Does that fit into the larger vision of your product? Or should you take their feedback as input and design a bespoke new solution for that new pathway? I'm not saying one is right or wrong here. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. I am saying all 4 of these options are totally valuable and totally viable. It's up to you as the designer and the product team to make that decision, but make it consciously. Understand what you're doing. You're seeing a desired path. How are you going to respond? Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know this feels super contrived and forced, but if you liked the content, please leave a like because it helps me know what people are enjoying and what content I should be making more of. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or would like me to elaborate on anything else. Thanks so much. See you next time.